Hello again. This is Ava Goodman, and
Wilbert James.
yes, we are Akid'nson.
We are Akid'nson.
We are Akid'nson. I'd like to start this out with an apology if we seem a little fuzzy in our presentations. 3 days ago, we were in a car accident, and we both have concussions. So, but this is so important that we get this information out. We decided to go ahead with this information concerning the difference between the 10-year rent adjustment, which we covered in the last video, and then the master lease, which goes until 2044, at which time the Swinomish Indian tribal community will decide what they're going to do with their property here, which is absolutely their right.
Yeah, Shelter Bay has always been an innovation.
Yes.
Of communities coming together. And the land had been valuable. Land is valuable. And even with the signing of the treaties, my ancestors got what they could to survive. And my son, Logan, was, at what point do we have to not only just survive? And so one of the things in the master lease that's interesting, because it was a deal brokered between a developer and the Swinomish Indian tribal community, outlined in the master lease. One of the things is that Swinomish has the right to ask the community of Shelter Bay to return the land Shelter Bay occupies to its natural state. And in 2044, Swinomish assumes or gets their land back. Swinomish not only gets the land back, but also all of the improvement, and including the homes. People would be welcome to remove their homes should Swinomish ask. Therefore, when the Swinomish Indian tribal community and Shelter Bay came together to discuss a new master lease, because Swinomish now has purchased the improvement from deferred rent. What I mean by that is, when Shelter Bay was created, Swinomish did not, at that time, have money. And in lieu of money, because Swinomish did not even have the capability of obtaining loans to help to add to pay for the development. So the developer agreed to invest all of the money required to make Shelter Bay and to create Shelter Bay. And it took an act of Congress to have a 75-year loan. When I say an act of Congress, 25-year lease. No, 75-year lease. At that time, you could only lease Indian land on the reservation for 25 years.
Right.
And 25 years was not enough time for the developer to get paid back the investment. It would not be a good investment at 25 years. So Swinomish went to Congress in Washington, D.C., and an act of Congress extended the potential term that Indian land could be leased for. And here we are, and the lease expires in 2044.
21 years away, and that's not very long at all. Especially if you look at it from a financial perspective. I mean, right now, banks won't loan here anything more than, well, some people are squeaking by with a 15-year lease, but that's our mortgage. But that's quickly dissipating as well. So most of the homes that are selling here, which has slowed down, by the way, most of the homes that are selling here are cash sales of where someone is getting out of Seattle or somewhere else and sells their home there for, $1 million and then buys someplace here
with cash
for $420 and think it's a screaming deal, and then realize that,
well, they fall in love with the place. I mean,
who wouldn't?
This is a wonderful place to live, and it's inside. I mean, Shelter Bay has always been a sacred place for us, for the people of Swinomish, and it's valuable, and we only have the land we have, and it's valuable, and I understand that. And so the Swinomish Indian Tribal Senate, when they met with Shelter Bay to talk about negotiating a new master lease, Swinomish has every right to consider that and request that the rent, instead of raw land value, now that it's been developed and now that Swinomish will own the improvement, that the rent be based on improved land value. So Shelter Bay has been pursuing new master lease to continue to survive as a community. And in 2015, Swinomish made an offer to Shelter Bay for a new master lease based on improved land value. And the current master lease is at 7% of raw land value. And Swinomish asked for and offered, I would say they asked for, but they offered, we can consider a new master lease, and we offer 7% of improved land value. The question Shelter Bay had at that point in time is 7% of improved land value survivable? Can the Shelter Bay community maintain itself paying lease rent of 7% of improved land value? The reality of the difference between raw land value and improved land value is 4 times as much. So Shelter Bay spent a good amount of money to have that evaluated. Can Shelter Bay survive paying 7% of improved land value? And their evaluation from an economic firm was that no. Now, at the current master lease, as the current master lease approaches 0 in 2044, 0 in time, it is projected and estimated that improvement value, that is, the value of the homes in Shelter Bay, will also approach 0. And the evaluation from the economic firm estimated using a number of variables. You cannot predict exactly what will happen in the future. However, their best estimate was that at somewhere around
5.1%, Shelter Bay would no longer be able to survive.
And home values would again approach zero. That is why Shelter Bay did not accept the best and final offer that Swinomish offered Shelter Bay. Now, Swinomish has every right to offer and ask for their land 7% of improved land value. And Shelter Bay, in turn, has every right to not accept that offer, given that
it's not sustainable.
It is not sustainable. And in 2019, members of the Shelter Bay board approached Ava and myself to ask for help, to help them navigate negotiation between the Swinomish Indian tribal community and Swinomish Indian Senate and the Shelter Bay community, the Shelter Bay company. And we agreed to that, to attempt to help. And we actually did our due diligence and went to see our attorney to help us negotiate our contract. And in discussing the situation at Shelter Bay,
he said
it was currently a mutual assured destruction. What that means is it is a challenge and a wonderful opportunity to bring people together and find a solution that everyone can accept. Now, Shelter Bay, just recently, Shelter Bay has made multiple offers to Swinomish. And at this point, Ava and I, who came on board right when COVID hit, which people forget now that what happened during the pandemic. However, it made opportunities for negotiation and meeting in person non-existent. And people were concerned about their own personal survival in the midst of a pandemic. And now we are coming out of that time period, and Shelter Bay has offered just recently 3.5% of improved land value as part of the negotiation.
A starting point.
To put that into context, 3.5% of improved land value is around double the current master lease rent
of 7% raw land value.
And 7% of improved land value is around 4 times more than the current master lease rent schedule. And that's a bit to swallow, that people who are having difficulty surviving with the current master lease rent adjustment in 2023, which has doubled the rent payment. And not only that, Shelter Bay is 53 years old. 53, and the viable lifespan of concrete is 75 years, and the infrastructure, the water pipes, the sewer pipes, they're all 53 years old and will need to be maintained. And at some point, given that, for example, the water pipes are made of concrete mixed with asbestos, that's going to need to be replaced. And Shelter Bay, at its inception at that time, actually right around when Interstate 5 was being built, people may remember there was Hope Island Resort, and there were all these little summer homes. If you go to Pullum Dam, you will see these summer cottages, and Shelter Bay was designed to be not a permanent residential home community.
Right. It was essentially summer homes.
What that means in some of the infrastructure is that, for example, the water supply of 6-inch pipes is insufficient and should be 12 inches or upgraded. And
there is something on the table, or that was on the table, that the tribe proposed as far as putting in a whole new water line along Indian Road and coming in that way instead of along the shoreline, because we have an issue there as well with the erosion and water mains being they're in jeopardy, and the soil, even the soil they're in with the erosion happening.
So Shelter Bay is doing its due diligence in capital assessment to maintain and the infrastructure. Now, one of the things we identified and as a concern is if you own and are charging full rent of improved land value, then it would make sense to me that Swinomish would bear some of the responsibility for the maintenance required for the infrastructure. And what I've found in this negotiation is that these are inconvenient truths. These are inconvenient truths. However, it is true, speaking as a Swinomish tribal member and landowner here at Shelter Bay, the current master lease is not seen at Swinomish as a good deal. However, Shelter Bay didn't cost anything and now pays millions of dollars in lease fees to the tribe. And that money goes to things that benefit our people. For example, every year, and I'm looking forward to it, each tribal member will receive money from the tribe for Christmas. And because money is received in lease on trust land on the reservation are not federally taxed, basically, although it's not been stated, the money has to come from somewhere.
Well, it's a disbursement, and it's a disbursement because it comes from Shelter Bay, and it's dispersed to the individual tribal members because the individual tribal members own 49% of Shelter Bay. All of them. The entire Swinomish Indian tribal community own 49% of Shelter Bay.
Yeah, the tribal members own the tribal land. The Swinomish Indian Senate controls the land. But the Swinomish Indian,
in
the government...
the best interest of the Swinomish Indian tribal community. 51% of Shelter Bay is owned by individual allottees. And so in July of every year, there's a check dispersed to the tribe.
To the BIA.
From the BIA. Money is paid from Shelter Bay to the BIA. The BIA then disperses a check to the Swinomish Indian tribal community and disperses checks to the individual allottees who own the property.
And there is benefit to money.
Well, there's benefit all the way around if we start taking care of each other as communities, not coming from a place of opposition, but a place of cooperation, of where we can reach out to each other and compromise on some things instead of being so intent. As my dad would say, so intent that we would be willing to cut off our nose to spite our face just to maintain our stance. If everyone takes that stance in this situation, everyone's going to be noseless.
Yeah.
I mean, from that analogy.
One of the analogies is like...
It's a lose-lose-lose if we don't come together and start really working with each other.
Now, some people would say that, Shelter Bay doesn't have much ground to stand on in this negotiation. However, given time and money and the current situation of the master lease and the consideration of we live in Shelter Bay and we have a sublease, we have an individual lease, and currently in Shelter Bay, when the developers realized that they were going to have to pay the Swinomish Indian tribal community more in master lease rent than the sum total of all of the individual leases. At that point, the developer sold the master lease. And the developer was masterful, because what the developer did was agree to 7% of raw land value. And then what happened and what was sold in individual leases to the people who are deciding to move into Shelter Bay was an entirely different lease structure. It was based on the city of Seattle, which is very stable. And when the developer had to pay more than it was, the developer understood that pay more. That it's not good business sense to have to pay more for a product than you can sell it for or collect. So the developer went to the tribe actually and said, "Do you want to take it over? Would you discuss that? Are you interested?" I think that's the key word. Are you interested in discussing this? And then turned around and went to Shelter Bay, the residents of Shelter Bay, the community of Shelter Bay, and said, "The tribe is interested in buying this. Do you want the tribe to buy this? I will give you an opportunity to buy it from me." And that is what happened. There were people...
That's how the Shelter Bay community was formed. It was formed to buy the Shelter Bay company from the Osbergs so that the tribe would not gain control. 90% of the Shelter Bay community voted to form the Shelter Bay community rather than be under direct governance of their leases by the Swinomish Indian tribal community.
And actually, they didn't get a loan from a bank. There were some influential and wealthy people living in Shelter Bay who formed another company to loan money to the residents of Shelter Bay so that they could purchase the master lease essentially from the developer for like $1.5 million.
Yeah.
And then every resident in Shelter Bay paid around $1,800 to assume the responsibility of the master lease. Now, the current situation is that, for example, last year, the sum total of the money collected in the individual leases
was $527,000.
And
the sum total of the rent payment to the tribe was over $2 million. So our supplemental rents are what make up that $1.5 million to meet our obligation as members of the Shelter Bay community.
To maintain the master lease.
To maintain the master lease.
Now,
it's plain and simple.
Should the master lease go away?
In other words, should Shelter Bay default,
then Swinomish will assume not only ownership of everything.
Well, they already have the ownership. It's just leased out.
The ownership of the improvement.
They will take on the entire responsibility of the assets and liabilities of the Shelter Bay community.
Now, the Swinomish Indian Tribal Office of Attorney, because we took the master lease and the individual leases and we read them, and the question is, should Shelter Bay default? What happens to the individual leases? And we have legal advice that these are legal documents. And should the master lease go away, the individual leases are still legal documents.
Right, and will be maintained by the individual leaseholders, and collecting the rent on the individual lots will become the responsibility of the Swinomish Indian tribal community and the allottees who own the properties.
And the sum total of the individual leases will be adjusted in 2023, but fall well short of the projected $4 million payment that is due according to the master lease. Now,
it's approximated that, the percentages, the tribe and Shelter Bay are still a few percents off of coming to an agreement on what the 10-year adjustment is. And it's possible that the calculations of Shelter Bay could fall short of what it is that the tribe wants. Now, the last time that happened, and they went to litigation over it, or to arbitration over it, because that's what it says you have to do in the master lease. They went to arbitration, and it turns out that the land was valued at twice as much as what Swinomish was asking for. And instead of the $10 million that the tribe wanted, they sided with the tribe and valued it as almost $19 million. So it cost Shelter Bay over $600,000 to have the arbitration, and then turned around and it actually cost twice as much as what the tribe was asking. So, and Shelter Bay was like, $10 million is way too much. And so into arbitration, pay over $500,000, turn around, and now you owe twice as much.
So the current situation, and I must I respect the office of tribal attorney. We didn't used to have attorneys. We didn't used to have money for attorneys. We also didn't used to have a casino in Swinomish. But you should know that the office of tribal attorney has gone to court over and over again to protect us, to protect our treaty rights at Swinomish. All the way
to the Supreme Court.
To the Supreme Court of the United States of America. And
we won.
We won. So the Office of Tribal Attorneys at Swinomish is quite capable of understanding the
intricacies of negotiating this master lease and what it really means.
And when we asked the Office of Tribal Attorney, who read the opinion letter from our attorney with regards to the individual leases and what should transpire should the master lease go away, he
just smiled and said, it's complicated.
And then the leadership at Swinomish basically said, our land is valuable, and it is, and we will survive, and we have, and history has not been kind to us since contact and colonization. And there are many, many people in the tribe who cherish this sacred land and would simply like to have it back. However, you can't rent it out and have it back at the same time. And the people who receive the money and live on the money need to listen. Are you ready to receive a fraction of what you have been receiving? And our advice to Swinomish is don't kill the golden goose. Perhaps consider negotiating a little less. So our job is to make everybody unhappy. And the people of Shelter Bay,
just a little unhappy.
Nobody wants to pay more money. Nobody can pay more money. And the response from the paid consultants from the tribe with regards to the fact that the lease is becoming more than people can afford simply stated that the people in Shelter Bay will change. And that means that many people in Shelter Bay could get financially hurt. And reaching, nobody would, the only reason you would agree to pay more in a lease for a new lease is to obtain the value of your home. And for as long as people can sell their homes in Shelter Bay at free market and be able to manifest and realize the value of their homes, there hasn't been much desire to pay 4 times as much or triple or even double. And it's coming to the point where people could get hurt. And people will get hurt. However, that's why we're here, not for ourselves. I mean, we love Shelter Bay, and it's likely that we will never leave this home, regardless of any lease situation. However, Some people will need to leave. And that's what's happened. We actually, at this point, are the senior members from 2019. The entire board, what historically happens, and we've watched it happen, is people come in, good people come in, good people try. And then at some point, they go, you know what? Maybe I should sell my house and get out of here before it crashes. And
that's what they've done. Historically, that's what they've done. Even before we became involved in this whole situation, there was past presidents that just threw their hands up, and they were advised by an assessor to the best thing to do is sign the lease and then get out before everything goes to hell. And I just don't think that that's right. The Swinomish are loving, caring, and sharing people. And I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding on both sides of this table. But I don't think that the misunderstandings are insurmountable, because we can all prosper by coming together.
And the reason we're going to put this out there is because from what we see happening in Shelter Bay, which is destructing itself.
It's really sad to see, the mudslinging and the people acting without knowledge of what's going on. They
and ironically, all of the things that are being thrown around on social media or whatever in discussion aren't talking about the important thing, which is the master lease.
Yeah.
It's all about the master lease, whether it's Rainbow Park, which is, cost me, what did that cost?
It cost each household $103 total. So we paid $103.
But
so did you.
There's more to talk about, and we will continue. And hopefully people will watch this. Hopefully people will come and have questions. Hopefully people will come together, because there is strength in cooperation.
And there's strength in community. When you come together in community, there's less likelihood of rumors or falsehoods or anything else going on, because you're connected. If we stay connected, and if we put forth an effort to connect and remain open-minded and have the ability to just listen to each other without forming what we're going to respond, but just listen. And if we really look at the overall picture of what the possibilities are if we came together in cooperation, if we really come together in cooperation and strengthen our communities, we've got a great opportunity to do that. And I really hope that happens. That's why I'm putting all this energy into it. And, we have countless hours. I mean, whether it's waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and going, hey, I think maybe this is it.
And then, and this is good. We're talking not to Shelter Bay. We're talking not to Swinomish. We're talking to everybody. Everybody. And the problem is that the people of Shelter Bay are not adequately respecting or recognizing the people of Swinomish. And the people of Swinomish are not adequately respecting and recognizing the this community and what it brings to the table. And there is an opportunity to each side take a little bit less, and come together in the middle and
start supporting each other instead of tearing each other down.
Save the community.
Building walls.
Because if Shelter Bay goes down,
it's going to affect Swinomish. And it's going to affect LeConner.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important. It's an unenviable task to attempt to bring people together who historically have not worked together cooperatively. And we are hopeful that this can be good.
Yeah.
And neither side will be happy. But you don't have to be happy with someone to recognize and respect them. It's like Thanksgiving, which is coming up. It's easy to be thankful for the things you are thankful for already. But the teaching of Thanksgiving is being thankful for everything, the good and the bad. And what a wonderful opportunity to grow and walk your talk. Respect each other. Recognize each other. Find a way together.
Practice listening is a good start. Give each other the time to, that maybe your words mean something. Maybe they have merit. Maybe it's something I could learn.
Maybe in 7 generations, our descendants will look back and be thankful for what was provided for them.
It was born out of a difficult situation.
Like Shelter Bay itself. People say it's a bad deal. I say it's the best deal we ever got. Didn't cost us nothing, and it gives us millions of dollars. Why would we kill the golden goose? Why would we make it pull and be damned? Why?
On the other hand, people can't expect to just, there's a lot of historic trauma and sometimes the stuff that's offered from Shelter Bay is like beads for Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Here's a few beads that you Indians go play now. You should be happy.
Well, I think if you look at what has been offered, the tribe has offered 7%. Shelter Bay has offered 3.5%. Shelter Bay can survive at 5%. This is not difficult, other than the fact that people in Shelter Bay are having difficulty paying double, and then it's going to be triple again. And that will have an impact on how much home values are in Shelter Bay, and it will adjust. And people deserve to know the time for pushing the can down the road and selling the blue sky is over. Now is the time to come together and be thankful for what we do have.
Yeah. It's time to seal up the seams.
Thank you.
Thank you.